simultaneous Spanish language interpretation is available. I would ask my colleagues to please select the English option using the interpretation button at the bottom of their screen once it becomes available, after the interpreter explains the accessibility features in Spanish. And our interpreter today is, I don't have your name, I apologize. And I can't hear you. No, Spanish only is.
We have Frida Bloom this morning.
Okay. And so is she giving the information in Spanish? Is that why we can't hear her?
I believe she's on the Spanish channel.
Oh, okay.
Giving the information.
All right. So why don't we just tell the folks who are in, on the English side, if they need interpretation, they can go ahead and click at the bottom, right, where it says interpretation. And then they'll be able to get the information as well if they need to translate.
Sounds good. And I'll go ahead and turn on the English channel now.
Thank you very much. All right. First and foremost, I want to say thank you. I want to take a moment to thank Supervisor Fletcher and Councilmember Stephen Whitburn for their service last year. And I also want to thank and welcome new board members. I think they're here. Supervisor Tara Lawson-Remer and County District 3 Representative and San Diego Member at Large Joe LaCava to the board. Welcome.
Glad to be here.
Very happy to be here. Thank you so much, Chair Vargas.
Wonderful. Councilmember LaCava and I used to have a lot of meetings together before we got elected out in Hollywood. Remember that? This one's way more fun. Anyway, so bienvenidos. We're happy that both of you are on the board. And so now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the clerk and ask for call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would like to ask that all meeting participants, including members of the public, please select your preferred language using the interpretation button at the bottom of the screen. This will allow you to hear presenters and participants clearly and prevent interference occurring between the two language channels. Also, before I call the roll, I would like to note that all board members are participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be taken by roll call vote. With that, Member Birkbeck-Garcia.
Member Birkbeck-Garcia present.
Member Bush. Member Bush.
Sorry, good to hear. Present.
Thank you. Member Ilo Rivera. Member Gomez.
Here.
Member LaCava. Member LaCava.
And
Thank you. Member Lawson-Remer.
Here.
Member Martinez.
Present.
Member Medina.
Dina here.
Member Shu.
Here.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez present.
And Chair Vargas.
Vargas here.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to remind board members to please turn on your cameras and everyone to mute your microphone if you're not speaking. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand and I will then recognize you. I would also ask for votes, please say your last name after your vote so that we can make sure that we're recording since we are on Zoom. All right, so the first item B, adoption of the resolution relating to holiday teleconferencing meetings. We will now move on to the adoption of the resolution relating to holding telephone conference meetings. Are there any comments that APCD staff would like to make regarding this item?
No comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from my colleagues regarding this item? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to adopt the resolution?
Madam Chair, move adoption.
Second, Gomez.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. So Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck-Garcia.
Yes.
Member Bush.
yes.
Member Ilo Rivera. Member Gomez.
Yes.
Member LaCava.
LaCava, yes.
Member Lawson-Remer.
Yes.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina.
Medina, aye.
Member Shu.
Shu, yes.
Vice Chair Vargas. I'm sorry, Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez, aye.
And Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to public communications. This is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to the board on any subject matter within the board's jurisdiction, but not an item on today's agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to address the board under this item?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask any members of the public that wish to speak under public communication to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. I would ask that you do that at this time. Seeing no hands raised, there are no members of the public wishing to address the board on this item.
Thank you. I do want to remind board members that we do have a space for any board member updates towards the end of the agenda as well. So just a reminder for that. We are heading now to item number D, approval of the minutes from December 9, 2021 board meeting. We are now going to move to the approval. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
I'll second it.
Do me a favor. Can you just say your last name when you make the motion?
Yes.
Just so that we can all, eventually we won't have to do that when we're in person. So I think it was Vice Chair Sanchez and Member Medina second, right?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
No problem. I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Member Birkbeck Garcia,
Birkbeck Garcia, yes.
Member Bush,
Bush, yes.
Member Ela Rivera, Member Gomez,
Gomez, yes.
Member LaCava,
LaCava, abstain.
Member Lawson Reamer,
Yes.
Member Martinez,
Yes.
Member Medina,
Medina, yes.
Member Shu,
Chu, yes.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. With Member LaCava abstaining, that motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
Thank you. We're now going to move to item E1 on our agenda, the election of officers, Chair and Vice Chair for the APC Governing Board. Madam Clerk, can you please provide the public testimony instructions?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. We have one request to speak on this item. I'm going to call the individual by the last 4 digits of their phone number. You'll hear a notification that your call has been unmuted. At that time, please press *6 to unmute your phone. Each caller will be asked to state their name for the audio record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please self-regulate your time. Our caller is Diane Takaboyan. You may unmute yourself at this time and begin speaking by stating your name for the record. Please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, I apologize for that. Good morning. And Happy New Year to everyone. I wanted to take a moment this morning to, as we approach the first anniversary of the new San Diego APCD, to express EHC's deep gratitude for the strides that you've made over this very short period of time. As one of the sponsors of AB 423, Environmental Health Coalition was representing the thousands of community residents who suffer serious health effects due to polluted air and who were demanding change. And as you know, San Diego has a very unfortunate legacy of serious air pollution, particularly in low-income communities of color. the San Diego Air Pollution Control District was not stepping up to address these issues in a meaningful way, and institutional change was really the only remedy. So that certainly changed during this last year, and for that we are very, very grateful. APCD staff have more than stepped up to the challenge presented by AB 423, and EHC is very grateful for their professional dedication and enormous work to address the most pressing issues. And all of you as board members stepped into a bit of unknown territory, as San Diego had never had a diverse and representative board such as the one that you all comprise today. Together, the board and staff have made remarkable changes in less than 1 year, including reforming the permit fee system to ensure full cost recovery, adopting a very strong air toxics rule that will reduce cancer risk from industrial sources of air pollution, adopting an ambitious and meaningful community emission reduction plan, frankly, one of the most well-regarded in the state. And I was very proud as a California Air Resources Board member to vote for that CERP. Honestly, one of the most exciting days that we've had. And I want to congratulate your board for these significant changes and recognize the leadership of Chair Nora Vargas and Vice Chair Esther Sanchez to ensure that these changes occurred. Environmental Health Coalition supports the re-election of Supervisor Vargas and Mayor Sanchez to continue their dedicated and effective governance. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment for this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Can you, before I open the floor to my colleagues, can you please provide the overview of this item?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Vargas. Per APCD Governing Board Bylaws, Section 1.3, the Air Pollution Control District Governing Board is requested to elect a chair and vice chair for the 2022 calendar year. The chair will be the presiding officer at all board meetings and perform other duties as have been assigned or as may be imposed by the board. The vice chair shall preside in the absence of the chair and perform other duties of the chair in their absence. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Gomez.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Vargas. And I want to echo what the public comment from EHC stating that, you know, this past year that we all came together as new board members to really uplift the work that this agency is doing, will continue to do, has been incredible just to see how fast we've been able to move forward, be responsive to the state audit. I know it's been challenging as well as the many changes that are coming and that will continue to move forward. But I have to acknowledge that, you know, as we were coming together and making all these changes and responding to some of the new changes, such as the CEO stepping away and having to respond to that and moving forward, and how we were going to have a full executive team, really has been incredible to see how things have been moving forward. I know that none of it has been smooth, but you know, that is really a reflection of the current chair, Vargas, and your leadership and doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes, you and your staff, and working closely with APCD and making sure that that as we are gathering during our board meetings, we don't see what takes part, right? So I'm really happy to say that, you know, I want to nominate Chair Vargas and Vice Chair Sanchez in continuing leading us this year. I think we're starting to set a good tone in terms of how we're going to move together, and I think you two have been keeping us moving forward. So thank you for that. Thank you for your leadership during these challenging times. But I know that we'll get there, and that we're going to create an agency that is going to take responsibility in overseeing air pollution specifically for our EJ communities. So my motion is to nominate Chair Vargas and Vice Chair Sanchez.
Thank you.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Did you want to make any comments, Member Bush?
Yeah, can I speak?
Yes, of course.
So I just want to echo, I don't want to repeat everything, so just want to echo what member Gomez said. I think we've had an incredible year. It's been really busy. There's a lot of changes that have happened, as we all know, but there are changes that need to happen. And, I'm really just happy to see the direction we continue to move in as an organization, and it wouldn't have been possible without your leadership, Chair Vargas, and with your assistance and help, and your leadership as well, Vice Chair Sanchez. So yeah, happy to move this along.
Thank you. I'm happy to accept the nomination. How about you, Vice Chair Sanchez?
Yes, I'm happy to serve. Thank you.
Let me see. Are there any other nominations before I open up the member Beck Garcia?
I agree with the nominations. I just really wanted to echo everything Member Bush and Member Gomez stated. I wanted to publicly state a thank you to both of you for all the work that you've done, especially you, Chair Vargas. But as someone who is coming from healthcare and public health, this is a whole new realm to me, and you have made the transition into this easier for me. And I just wanted to say thank you for your leadership, because we would not be where we're at today without the leadership you've provided. So I just want to echo thank yous to both of you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, Vice Chair Sanchez?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to underscore and add, we also selected hearing officers. This is a unique board in the state and possibly even in the nation. And to have our inaugural year as we did under your leadership, it has been a phenomenal journey. And there is so much hope out there. And the idea, the notion of getting this more to the public in whatever language and whatever words, simpler words, to get more public participation and really shine a light on where we need to act. So I am just so proud to serve with you all. You're all very unique in your ability to really make impacts, and it's just so wonderful to be working. I sometimes I feel like, I'm not worthy, because you guys just rock it out, and as do the public. So I want to thank you. Thanks, staff. Staff has certainly made this easy for someone who wasn't really used to the terminology. I just want to say, my heart is very happy today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. So, Madam Clerk, would you like to call? Is there no other comments? Would you like to call the roll, please?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Beck Garcia.
Member Beck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush.
Yes.
Member Ilo Rivera. Member Gomez.
Gomez, yes.
Member LaCava.
LaCava, an enthusiastic yes. Happy to serve under both Chair Vargas and Vice Chair Sanchez.
Thank you. Member Lawson-Remer.
Yes.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina.
Medina, aye.
Member Shu.
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I wanted to say first and foremost, thank you for the nomination and for your confidence in us as a team to be able to move this forward. I'm excited about being able to do amazing work this year with all of you together, but also with my colleague, Vice Chair Sanchez, who has been able to step in when, COVID happens in the county of San Diego. And so I just wanted to say again, thank you. It's been a really exciting year. And to be chair of APCD, well, it becomes the first separate entity from the county. There's still a lot of work to be done, but I think that I'm going to say to all of you that my favorite part is organizational management and geeking out on like all this work that we're doing. So it's been super cool to be able to be part of the process to, the hiring of the new executive, it's not an executive director, our new leadership. Also to be able to look at ways that we can engage the public and the community. And I want to say thank you to EHC and all of the folks out there who are continuously participating and engaging. We still have a lot of work to do, But I think that APCD's Office of Environmental Justice, to this, being able to have created the Office of Environmental Climate Justice for the county, and what that work is that we're going to be doing together, I think is going to be exciting, and I'm thrilled about that. The other thing is, I do want to mention, and be very grateful for David from my team, who has done an exceptional job in being a true partner with APCD staff and really connecting around the work. So thanks to David and to the whole team for everything that you've done. We have a lot of work to do, and the biggest challenge that we have is making sure we can find a time where everybody can meet. But other than that, all the other work seems easy. So thank you again, and let's move on. But with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. And so, Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to move from the public to move any of the items from the consent calendar to the regular agenda item for discussion?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask any members of the public that wish to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that are provided online. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Seeing no hands raised and receiving no requests, there are no items pulled for discussion from the public.
Okay. And are there any questions from my colleagues, or do any of the board members wish to move a matter from the consent calendar to the regular agenda? I think seeing none. I do want to just mention thank you to APCD staff for all the work on the district's incident response plan, and I appreciate staff integrating the recommendations made at our November meeting. So with that, I need a motion to approve the consent item.
Move the approve.
Thank you.
Gomez, second.
We have a motion by Member Bush and second by Gomez. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia.
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush.
Bush, aye.
Member Elo Rivera. Member Gomez.
Gomez, yes.
Member LaCava.
LaCava, yes.
Member Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina.
Medina, aye.
Member Shu.
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
All right, thank you so much. We are now going to move on to our discussion items, and agenda item number G1 is the resolution to set the date and time for our regular meetings of the APCD Governing Board. Before we have a discussion on this, Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to provide public testimony on this item?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask those members of the public that would like to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided online and on our agenda. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. Seeing no hands raised, there are no members of the public wishing to address this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, let me just first start off by saying thank you to all the board members that have responded to staff's polling to secure a meeting. It was really, really appreciated. With all of the replies, and yes, thank you, Madam Clerk, you've been doing an amazing job around this, but with all the replies, the date we can achieve quorum is the second Thursday of the month. Now, the question is, we need to provide input as to whether the meeting should be in the morning, starting at 9 a.m. or in the afternoon, starting at 2 p.m. And so I'm going to open it up for discussion for recommendations or a motion. Member Chu?
Well, since the time I worked on the doodle poll, I've been appointed to the NPS board, so which meets on those many of those Thursdays in the morning. So in order to make most of the meetings, it would have to be in the afternoon of those Thursdays. That's my only real conflict. Otherwise, I really do want to commend staff for working on this doodle poll. It was probably a real challenge, but that's my only input. On those Thursdays, for most of the year, I have a meeting in the mornings. So for APCD, 1 o'clock would work out well.
It would be 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. 2 o'clock would be anything after the noon will be great.
How about you make a motion, sir?
I will make a motion that we shift the time for these meetings on those Thursdays to 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Sanchez, second.
Oh, my hand's up.
Member Martinez, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I had my hand up, but so I do agree with Member Shu. I think afternoons would be best. The San Diego County Water Authority, which I also serve on that board, does occasionally hold special meetings in the mornings on second Thursdays. They don't usually, but I think having the meeting in the afternoon would be best. And hopefully that could be our official schedule going forward, so we're not every year having to reassess folks' schedules. Also, I think having an afternoon would be very beneficial for us that live in North County. That's prime rush hour traffic. So afternoon, I think, would be great. So I second Member Shu's motion.
All right, we're going to give it to you because Vice Chair Sanchez had seconded, but we're going to give it to you. So we have a motion and a second. Member LaCava?
I appreciate the challenge, especially for those of us that have very, very busy schedules. I will not be able to make an afternoon meeting on the second Thursday. So if that is the will of the board, I will work with my city council to find a replacement. So this may be the only time you see me. So, but I know you've got a tough schedule and there's so many things that so many of us are involved in, but I'll respect the will of the board.
Oh, I feel bad, but I mean, it's like we really have been trying to find a time for everybody. So we apologize, Member LaCava. Any other comments? We have a motion and a second. Can we go ahead and call the roll, Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Burkbeck Garcia.
Burkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush.
Bush, yes.
Member Ayla Rivera. Member Gomez.
Yes.
Member LaCava.
In solidarity with the group, I will vote yes.
Member Lawson Reamer.
Yes.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina.
Medina, aye.
Member Shu.
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
What I would like to be interested in doing, I think I can do this, Ms. Forbes, is that we go ahead and just solidify this date and this time moving forward for infinity and beyond, because I don't know how else to say that, because otherwise, I mean, I know everybody knows Sandag is on Friday in the morning, you know, so I think APCD would have to be every Thursday at 2 p.m. Not every Thursday, this particular Thursday at 2 p.m. It's the second Thursday, right, of the month. So I would really appreciate it if we can just put it on all calendars so that everybody engaged can just have that. And if people are interested in participating in this committee, they know, and they're not having to, unfortunately, not be able to meet the date. So thank you very much, everyone. This was super, super hard. And I'm really sorry, Member LaCava, that is going to challenge you, but I appreciate you being here. All right, with that, we're going to move on to item number D2, which is, give me 1 second. Adopt amendments to interim bylaws to define the duties and role of the military liaison to elect the military liaison from the 2022 calendar year. There is a staff presentation for this item. So Madam Clerk, if we will take any members of the public that wish to provide public testimony on this item after the staff presentation. And so I'm going to turn it over to staff.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. This item has 3 parts to it, all of which relate to a unique feature of our governing board. The California Health and Safety Code section that prescribes the composition of our board also requires that one of the 2 representatives from the County Board of Supervisors serve as a liaison to our local military branches. We're the only district in California which has this requirement, and Supervisor Fletcher served in this role last year. The military liaison is required to report to the board as needed regarding any issues with air quality permitting, rules, or planning that could impact the military entities and potential resolution of those issues. The first action associated with this item is a request to adopt an amendment to the interim bylaws of the governing board that would better define the role of the military liaison. This policy was drafted in consultation with Supervisor Fletcher and military representatives. The policy would require the liaison to determine the appropriate points of contact for the specified military branches, direct district staff to meet with those contacts at least quarterly and report to the liaison any issues that could not be resolved, meet with military contacts to discuss potential unresolved concerns, and provide as needed a military liaison report to the board on any issues that could impact the mission of the military. The second action associated with this item is a request to designate the military liaison for calendar year 2022 from among the 2 representatives from the County Board of Supervisors. But first, in order to provide context to these requests, we're pleased to have Captain Ted Carlson, the commanding officer for Naval Base San Diego, who will provide an overview of the breadth of the San Diego Navy operations in San Diego County. Captain Carlson is a native of Orange County and a graduate of San Diego State, and has had a long and distinguished career with the Navy since 1989. With that, I will turn it over to Captain Carlson.
Great, thank you very much. Good morning, Governing Board, and congratulations, Chair Vargas and Vice Chair Sanchez. And thank you for allowing me to speak before you today. I'm Captain Ted Carlson, the Commanding Officer of Naval Base San Diego. And today I will be providing an overview brief on the Navy in San Diego, our mission, and where we intersect with environmental compliance and our current efforts in time and resources that we devote to compliance, as well as initiatives we have in our undertaking to decrease air emissions. A little bit about myself before we start. I'm a native Californian, like what was stated. I've been in the Navy for over 32 years, and I am a surface warfare officer, meaning that I've been stationed on ships the majority of my career. And I've been in my current position as commanding officer since March of 2021. Can I have my slides pushed? Great. Let me adjust my screen real quick. Okay, next slide, please. Currently, I work for Admiral Barnett, who is the commander of Naval Region Southwest. He oversees 10 installations, which encompass 19 runways, 42 piers, almost 13,000 single-family houses, 22 childcare centers, has over 10,000 employees, and all of this is to support the manning, training, and equipping of the warfighter and warfighting mission in the sea, air, and on the land. And that entails supporting over 325,000 customers consisting of active duty personnel, government civilians, as well as contractors. Next slide. The area that encompasses the Southwest region you can see on the screen. And the San Diego metro area with Naval Base San Diego, which I command, Point Loma, as well as Coronado, is the largest fleet concentration area in the United States, even bigger than the Norfolk, Virginia area. Next slide, please. Over the next several years, we will see an additional growth at all 3 of the metro area installations, with more ships, more aircraft, and more submarines coming here and calling San Diego home. Next slide. Naval Base San Diego, the best base in the world, if I do say so myself, is home to the Pacific Fleet and is celebrating its centennial birthday this year. I am responsible for 5 geographical areas, plus another additional 19 housing areas consisting of almost 5,000 houses. My staff numbers around 2,000 personnel, supporting 42,000 government workers of active duty, civilians, and contractors, plus another 10 to 20,000 temporary contractors, and another 5 to 10,000 dependents and retirees. Over 60 ships are home ported at my base, the largest concentration of the surface fleet in the Pacific. And this is where the ships train, restock, and repair at my base. It is essentially a small city with its own police force, public works department, and fire department that I would add do routinely assist the surrounding communities such as Barrio Logan and National City with emergencies through our mutual aid agreements with those communities. Next slide. Naval Base Coronado is home port to 3 Navy carriers, as well as the Naval Special Warfare, SEAL training, and home port facilities, fleet readiness, and the Naval Air Station, where they conduct air operations and air maintenance activities. Next slide. Naval Base Point Loma is home port to all our submarines, where they conduct operations and maintenance. They also have the Navy refueling pier, as well as Naval Special Warfare sectors for the Navy research and development and the marine mammal programs. Next slide. So who we are you. Our sailors and their families are living and working throughout San Diego. They live in every neighborhood. Their children attend every school. I was born and raised up the road in Orange County, came to San Diego all the time. I went to boot camp here in San Diego, which is now Liberty Station. I've been stationed here for over several decades. I met and married my late wife here. I bike, surf, paddleboard every week, always out on the bay, and I will retire here. This is home. The issues that impact San Diego: housing, affordability, transportation, transit, childcare issues, clean air, clean water, all these impact our active duty sailors and their families as much as your constituents. The Navy is really committed to our ongoing partnership through the region and to being part of the conversation on these critical issues that are important to all of us. Next slide, please. As I said, there are a number of housing units throughout the region, all across, that we are responsible for. And just understand, this is a small fraction of the tens of thousands of military families that live throughout the region. Next slide. The San Diego Military Advisory Council, the other month, released their annual military economic impact study report, and the military impact on San Diego accounts for 25% of the county's economy. And this was a major factor in lessening the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic to the area. Next slide. One of the key issues that I face, and I know all of you are interested in, is traffic. Traffic is a major issue with the city as well as our installations, and we're working actively to mitigate traffic, which will also have environmental benefits. We have at Naval Base San Diego a mobility plan as an example where we encourage, reward, and mandate such things as walking and biking, ride share, carpooling, shuttle use, and telework, as well as infrastructure upgrades to combat the traffic that we experience along Harbor and our surrounding intersections. And you can see the link to our plan right there if you'd like to look at it in depth. Next slide, please. All right, so environmental stewardship is part of our job. In all the media areas of air, water, waste, cleanup, I am out and about on my base weekly, inspecting to ensure compliance with federal, state, and local standards. I have a team that daily inspects our piers, our waterfront. We conduct training and outreach with our partnerships with the state local regulators, as well as private entities. We have programs in partnership with the San Diego Zoo and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services on the San Clemente Island. And we have specific actions such as reoccurring maintenance on our control systems, structural best management practices, and utilization of specific areas designed to contain our maintenance activities. As you can see from the pictures, we have booms that we place around ships should there be any spill of any contamination. And I have a team specifically designated to respond to any incident. For ship repair, that white material you see surrounding the superstructure, the shrouding, contains any contaminants to make sure that we don't spill those into the environment. Like I said, training and outreach, and then any stormwater which may be contaminated, we collect that and make sure it's processed correctly and in compliance. Next slide, please. Across the metro, we have 44 full-time inspectors, plus my tenant commands, the smaller commands on my base. They have their own set of inspectors, as well as the contractors that do work on our base. They all work together to ensure compliance. And like I mentioned, I inspect as well. And I will tell you, there's nothing like the base CEO coming aboard a ship unannounced to point out a discrepancy and make sure people are doing it right. Next slide. And these are just some of the types of emissions that we deal with daily, ensure strict compliance with the permitting of emergency generators, fuel dispensing. I have a number of gas stations, corrosion control, firefighting training, boilers, welding operations, as well as vehicles. Next slide. The Navy is committed to air quality and our air compliance programs. We take significant measures to control both our stationary and mobile sources through a combination of employing best available control technologies, modernizing our fleet and our electric grid, changes in maintenance level operations at installations, and shifts in industrial processes, our emission sources. We have seen reductions exemplified by historic welding emissions trends over the last 20-year period. We are actively partnering with the community via the AB 617 process at Naval Base San Diego, which includes the installation of an air monitoring station on base. Our installations comply with all applicable regulations, including the performance of health risk assessments and ongoing screenings to ensure the effectiveness of our programs. Next slide. And we're looking towards the future, always. Making investments in clean energy, sustainability. The climate will have a positive impact for the environment and for our air quality. There's a federal push to make greater progress in these areas, as exemplified by the recent EO 14057 concerning federal sustainability. I will also point out the LCFS, Low Carbon Fuel Standard. The Navy has been pursuing a strategy of implementing electrification where feasible as a tool of mission resilience. The Navy Region Southwest is evaluating options to partner with local entities here in San Diego to participate in CARB's Low Carbon Fuel Standard Credit Program as an opt-in entity under the Electric Power for Ocean-Going Vessels provisions at Naval Base San Diego. What that means is when the ships come into port, instead of remaining on their generators, which are high in emissions, they plug into the grid and we provide them electricity. This increases air quality substantially. We will get a credit for that, and this could be provided a significant additional funding source to further electrify our infrastructure and upgrades and reduce our emissions. Next slide, please. Again, thank you for allowing me to address the board today. And I want you to take away that we understand our responsibility to be a good steward, to be a good partner. We are diligent in that duty, and we value our partnership with San Diego County Air Pollution Control District Governing Board and look forward to strengthening our partnership. Pending your questions, this concludes my brief.
Thank you, Captain Carlson. I just wanted to say thank you also for having both at the time Supervisor Fletcher and myself join you on the campus and just be able to tour the facilities and have real deep conversations about what was happening. I really appreciate everything that you all are doing, and particularly around environmental stewardship. So I really, really appreciate that. Thank you for that. Supervisor Lawson-Remer, any questions for Captain Carlson? Yes, Vice Chair Sanchez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for that presentation, Captain Carlson. I really appreciate that. And also the partnership. I do have a question that is probably more elementary here. The Department of the Navy includes Camp Pendleton, the Marine Corps base Camp Pendleton. And I wondered, where is the relationship, and how do you work with Camp Pendleton, and how is Camp Pendleton included in this partnership with the Air Pollution Control District? I think the one issue having to do with air quality and air pollution has more to do with, sorry about the ringing in the background, has more to do with the fires that happen during training. So I've never really understood what, if any, conversations have been taking place regarding controlling the air quality with respect to that.
Well, thank you for your question, Vice Chair Sanchez. I'm actually going to defer to my assistants, AC and Mary Kay. If Madam Clerk, if you can unmute them. They are part of Region, work for the Admiral, and they probably have a better situational awareness of that interaction with the Marine Corps.
And I'm sorry for that elementary kind of question, but
I think a very important question. Growing up in Southern California and wildfires, that's part of life and definitely affects the air quality. Thank you. Mary Kay?
Hi, Vice Chair Sanchez. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I'm an environmental lawyer for Admiral Barnett at Region, as the captain had said. Admiral Barnett wears a DOD hat and coordinates across all the services, including obviously the Marine Corps throughout California. So we do play a role in that coordination, and we are more than happy to facilitate that conversation going forward. We, in staffing with Paula Forbes and the other APCD members on the military liaison policy, we affirmatively reached out to the Marine Corps and the Coast Guard because of both of their tremendous presence here in San Diego County, and have had all of their comments incorporated in concert with Paula. So we do that coordination regularly. I can't speak to the operational fire issue here today, but we are happy to take that on and facilitate that conversation going forward. Over.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good to see you, Ms. Mary Kay.
Hi.
Supervisor, hello. Supervisor Lawson-Remer?
I didn't have a question, just a comment. Would that be appropriate at this time?
Sure.
First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for your presentation. Found it incredibly interesting, and especially as I will, with new districts, I'm going to be representing quite a bit of the region that the Navy operates in. I'm just really looking forward to partnering with you and working together. But I also I'm just really excited about the work that my colleagues, Supervisor Vargas and Supervisor Fletcher, have been doing in building and strengthening our relationship with the military in San Diego to improve our air quality and really deepen the work that the APCD is doing. So I know one of the two of us, either myself or Supervisor Vargas, is supposed to serve in this role as liaison, and I would love to see my colleague Supervisor Vargas continue on in that work and take on that responsibility if she is willing to do so. She's really been a champion on so many of these environmental justice issues, and I would love to see her take on that role of the military liaison if Chair Vargas, if you'd be amenable to doing so.
I would. Thank you so much, Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Thank you for everything. Keep it up.
Well, I accept the nomination. Is there a second?
Chair, I'm sorry, Chair Vargas, real quick, before we move into the motions, is it okay if I ask for public testimony?
Yes.
Thank you. I would ask any members of the public that wish to address this item, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. I believe we have one speaker for this item. I have one speaker, Diane Takvorian. If you could go ahead and unmute yourself at this time. You can begin by stating your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Good morning. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. So thank you very much for the opportunity to comment on this item. As you know, Environmental Health Coalition supported AB 423, including the provision requiring the establishment of the military liaison. We agree that the military provides a unique and critical service to the residents of San Diego and the nation, and we appreciate Captain Carlson's presentation this morning and his note that the military can certainly be a big driver in reducing air pollution. We agree that the establishment of clear direction to APCD staff and the military liaison is positive and useful action for this board to take. However, we understood that the intention of the provision in the law is to enable the district to communicate effectively with the military about district requirements and the potential impact those might have on the military. This access is added to the multiple opportunities afforded to the regulated community and the public to provide input regarding rule development and revision. The military enjoys these opportunities as well, and we assume that the military would not be given extraordinary access to the staff and board during the rulemaking process. So towards that end, we'd like to make 2 recommended changes to the proposed policy. AB 423 requires the military liaison to connect with the Navy, Coast Guard, and Marines. EHC requests that the military branches coordinate and select a representative to provide liaison to APCD. That would be in keeping with the intention of the law and to maintain this liaison in a general manner and not overburden either the board liaison or the staff by requiring that they liaise with contacts from all 3 branches separately. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, the military is subject to many regulations as their operations are a significant source of pollution, from welding and chrome plating to abrasive cleaning and diesel emissions. We request that the military's communication with the district as a permittee be specifically excluded from the general liaison conversations in order to ensure equitable access for all permittees. Our overall goal with these recommendations is to separate the military liaison role from that of the APCD relationship with the military as a regulated entity. Thank you again for the opportunity to comment on this item.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you. Let me turn it over to Ms. Forbes so she can give us any recommendations on those items.
Sure. And we also have Mayani Luther here with us, our Deputy Director over Engineering. But I'll take a first, make some initial comments on that. In terms of the policy itself, you'll note that at the end of it, it specifies that any comments made to the military liaison in the course of the consultation process do not become part of the administrative record in a rulemaking or other proceeding unless they're formally submitted in that. And so to EHC's comments, it's not that the militaries would have separate access that where they would not be required to also put comments in a rulemaking proceeding or that sort of thing. So it doesn't circumvent that public process that would be occurring. And then in terms of permits, we don't see this process as going beyond what we would be doing with any permittee. So often district staff will have comments with permittees about the contents of their permits. There will be discussion on particular conditions, and Maini can elaborate further on that. But this process would be separate from that, but it's in addition to what we would be doing anyway with permittees in the development of their permits. Maini, did you have additional comments that you wanted to make?
Not really. I believe that you addressed the intent of the policy, and the requirements were designed such that the district will continue to closely work with the military installations, before any issues are elevated to the board.
Thank you. There's a motion. Member Medina?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I originally, when I raised my hand, I had a question for Captain Carlson. However, in light of AHC's recommendation and interim Chair Vargas, interim APCO Forbes comment, I need some clarification on that. So I'll start with that, and then maybe I'll end with Captain Carlson if we still have the time. I have to say that I'm not quite understanding how the recommendation that Ms. Forbes is making addresses EHC's concern, both in terms of separating any liaison duties from their role as a regulated entity. So I would like to see more clarification on what kind of firewall exists in that respect. And second, your comments did not address the issue of having a coordinated liaison rather than a per branch liaison. So if you could clarify that further, I would appreciate it.
Let me ask a question. It seems to me that this is unfortunately the first time that I hear about these two recommendations. So if it would be okay with the board, what I'd like to recommend is that the two recommendations that EHC has, that we actually have a discussion under the governance committee, because I think it falls under that piece of it. And so we can actually ask EHC to submit a request, and then as the governance committee, we can take a look at it, and then we can bring it back to the board, so that we are not trying to sort of have a discussion when we don't have a lot of the information in front of us and what the intent, and I'm happy to check in with Supervisor Fletcher as well. And I understand that Diane was there from the beginning in terms of the intent of the recommendations as well, but I think it would be better to have a small committee look into it and really assess that. Would that be okay with you, Member Medina?
Yes, it would. And so then that opens my time to Captain Carlson's question. Thank you, Chair. That's a very good recommendation. Captain Carlson, I appreciate your presentation. It really was very informative. And my question is maybe more related to what the Navy's position is on the impending rise in sea level, and whether the base has any plans to strengthen, become more resilient in that respect, and what would that look like?
Member Medina, thank you for that question. Yes, we are definitely concerned with resiliency across the board. And there are many projects that we could spend a half hour here and more talking about that subject. But yes, we are concerned with it as we redo our infrastructure and upgrade it, such as our peers. We build them at a higher level, understanding the sea rise. Yes, maybe we can have a discussion over coffee one day about that. It's such a broad question. And I see Mary Kay, who has a broader view, would like to weigh in on that. So I'll ask phone a friend, Mary Kay.
Thanks, Skipper. Yes, member, the Navy region has entered into an MOU with the Port of San Diego, recognizing that in terms of property ownership between the Navy and the Port of San Diego, we're at about in the 95%, and understand the true importance of coordinating sea level rise across those jurisdictions. We engage with the port on a regular basis. We share information on modeling, and as the skipper said, incorporate in our planning documents at the federal level. We engage in NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act, which are environmental impacts associated with any sort of funding or construction. It's a similar statute to CEQA at the state level. And in that regard, we do incorporate sea level rise, climate change aspects. And Chair Vargas actually had firsthand visual of that at Coastal Campus, our recent $1 billion construction along the Strand at Naval Base Coronado. And in terms of the adaptation that we engage in on a project by project basis to address, as you said, this pending threat. So in addition to regional coordination, regional cooperation, there's also internal mandates within federal law. And again, as Skipper said, we're happy to follow up at any time, either in the formal setting of this board or in to follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Bush?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you to Captain Carlson for presentation and overview. I was especially interested in the focus on active transportation, so that part of your presentation. The reason why, so one of the, as one of the biggest challenges that we have as a region, our board, is that the largest source of emissions and air pollution that actually comes from vehicles and cars. So, but we have no direct regulatory authority over that. Only not mobile sources, only stationary. So I was really interested in this part of the program. So do you all have a Navy Region Southwest or whatever entity it is? Do you have specific programs, incentives, promotions for getting folks into using bikes? So I don't know if it would be a transportation or climate action plan that has specific mode share goals, like a set percentage of employees, Navy personnel that are kind of a target or a goal of a percentage of how many that you all would push to active transportation, to biking, walking, because I see it as kind of a win-win because our military has focuses a lot on health, on physical training, and biking adds to that and provides that. So I think we can kind of kill two birds with one stone and promote health and that and kind of that physical training and activity while at the same time reducing emissions. So yeah, could you speak to that at all?
Bush, a great topic and question, and I could talk on a small scale as far as my base, and then I'll turn it over to Mary Kay for the region aspect. But right now I have over 5,000 sailors, single sailors, that live on the dry side of the base, which is on the east side of harbor. In the past, they have gotten in the car in the morning and driven to work over to the west side of harbor. This has added 5,000 vehicles and a lot of traffic. One of the approaches that we've taken is I have mandated that they're not allowed to do that, so that they do have to use a bike and walking to base and taking those 5,000 plus cars off that very congested area and reduced emissions. And then of course we encourage people to do ride share, working with your mayor on the Harbor 2.0 and getting a hub there with the trolley station down by our 8th Street, as well as other avenues for carpooling and such. And I'll turn it over to Mary Kay for the regional view.
Great, thanks, Skipper. Thank you for your question, Governing Member Bush. We also have regionally and actually nationally authority from Congress. It's called the Transportation Incentive Program. You referenced that. How do we incentivize employees to take public transit or get those cars off the road? And it's actually an actual financial credit to pay for any of those alternative modes of transportation. We advertise it internally to increase participation and ridership. You know, it ebbs and flows, right, as kind of the economy comes and goes, but we are actively, seeking more participation in that. Of course, with the pandemic, all of the vehicles miles traveled have reduced. Telework incentives is also part of that, right, to take those cars off the road. So I think that answers one of your questions. I think it was a several part question. As it relates to other incentives, the skipper talked to the low carbon fuel standard program. And also, I must say, while your jurisdiction is primarily stationary sources, California Air Resources Board is actively regulating mobile sources. And under federal law, the Navy is subject to all of those regulations. We're actively involved in participating, reviewing, commenting on all of the regulations on the Advanced Clean Fleet, heavy duty vehicles. There's a number of regulations that are in process of being finalized at the ARB level. And those do apply to us at this level within the military. So I think that's a major point. I think the other point is that the other incentives was a third part of your question, and we are actively seeking out these sorts of opportunities. Now, as a federal attorney, we have fiscal law prohibitions because Congress likes to control the purse. And so we're actively, as the skipper talked about the low carbon fuel standard program, seeking authority up our chain of command to participate in that program. What that would do would be to provide us additional monies to electrify our fleet. Another opportunity came in my inbox just this week. It's the Volkswagen Penalty Relief Fund. You may be familiar with it. This is, a US EPA initiative, and now an opportunity for us at the local level to again access additional funds, because as you know, these heavier mobile electric mobile sources are very expensive, and we're not always funded for that at the skipper's level or at the region level. So we're constantly looking for fiscal authorities to push and reduce our air impacts and push our fleet to electric. So hopefully that answers some of your question. I'll take a pause and see if there's any follow-up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mary Kate. What I wanted to say is that I think there are opportunities, especially through this role of the liaison, to identify any questions or concerns that board members have, and we are able to share them with them. And I'm sure the captain and would be more than willing to either do presentations and or have folks join them in either additional questions, et cetera, since they, I think, are really interested in making sure that there's true collaboration and opportunities for participation. So if that's okay with you, I'm going to go ahead and move forward. We have a motion. Is there a second to the motion? We have a second with Member Gomez. Member Chu, is it regarding this discussion or the other item? Oh, I can't hear you, sir. You're on mute. Member Chu?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I agree with you. The motion has to do with our appointment for our liaison, not a discussion about the Navy, but I just want to put out one quick one point. The university recently, because of the Mid-Coast Transit connection with the Blue Line, makes it free for their university students to ride the trolley. It would be nice if the Navy made the riding the MTS line, then North Coast Transit line, free for all its sailors and dependents on in-housing. That would help my community a lot. So with that, I hope we can move on with the meeting and this particular motion.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second for the liaison role. Madam Clerk, I think it's, can you call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia.
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush.
Bush, yes.
Member Elo Rivera. Member Gomez.
Yes.
Member LaCava.
LaCava, yes.
Member Lawson Reamer.
Yes.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina.
Medina, aye.
Member Shu.
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye. I'm looking forward to this opportunity. We have another motion that we regarding this item, and that is we need a motion to approve the amendment to the bylaws on the military liaison duties and role. I'm happy to make a motion. I need a second.
Hugh, second.
Second. Madam Clerk, are there any comments on this item?
There were no public comments outside of the one member of the public that spoke.
Oh, there you go. I'm on mute. Any comments from our board members? As mentioned, the item that was presented by Diane Tagorian from EHC will be moved forward to our governance committee for further discussion. With that, can you call the roll, please?
Thank you. Member Member Birkbeck Garcia.
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush.
Bush, yes.
Member Ella Rivera. Member Gomez.
Yes.
Member LaCava.
LaCava, yes.
Member Lawson Reamer.
Aye.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina.
Medina, aye.
Member Shu.
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with all board members who are present voting aye.
All right, our other item for discussion is an update on the development of the SDAPCD's public participation plan and proposed goal. We have a staff presentation on this, and Madam Clerk, will you take any members of the public that wish to provide public testimony on this item? Can they go ahead and remind them to do this after the presentation?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I would ask those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item to please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. You may also indicate that you wish to speak on this item by using the raise hand feature through Zoom or by pressing *9 now. You will be able to speak before the board once the staff presentation has concluded. Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to staff. Ms. Forbes.
Great. Thank you, Chair Vargas. Good morning, members of the board and members of the public. I am filling in today for Domingo Vigil, our Deputy Director over our Office of Environmental Justice, who couldn't attend the meeting today. But I wanted to provide you with an update on the progress in developing APCD's public participation plan. Could I have the clerk? There we go. I'm going to give her a minute to put that in presentation mode. Perfect. Thank you. Oops, there we go.
Hold on just a minute. Are you able to see just the slide presentation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. In 2019, the California State Auditor conducted an audit of APCD's operations. The CSA's July 2020 audit report included proposed recommendations for APCD to create and implement a public participation plan to become more responsive to the public and encourage public participation. Also, one of the strategies in the recently approved Portside Community Emissions Reduction Plan calls for the development of a public participation plan to enhance the effectiveness of the APCD's public outreach and engagement activities in disadvantaged communities and other communities throughout the region. Today, I'll be providing an update on the development of the public participation plan, our overall timeline, public engagement and input to date, as well as proposed goals and principles for the plan and next steps. Next slide, please. In the summer of 2021, APCD staff worked internally with all APCD divisions to gather information about current outreach practices and internal needs. In July of 2021, APCD brought on board a team of consultants from MIG Communications and Pueblo Planning to develop the public participation plan. To ensure the development of the plan itself included comprehensive and strategic outreach from its initial stages, we partnered with community-based organizations, including the Environmental Health Coalition, Casa Familiar, Bayside Community Center, El Cajon Collaborative, Vista Community Clinic, and community members countywide. CBO partners were selected with input from the APCD Ad Hoc Governance Committee based on their relationships with communities that are most impacted by air quality issues in their geographical representation throughout the county. Next slide, please. In partnership with these CBOs, APCD staff and our team of consultants, we conducted 7 community listening sessions, one-on-one interviews with 5 CBOs, and 2 workshops with a collective group of CBOs together. Engagement was conducted with English-Spanish interpretation, and some sessions also included Arabic and Vietnamese interpretation. In addition, the consultant team conducted a workshop with APCD's management team to discuss the information gathered and incorporate input from staff. Next slide, please. Finally, a project website was launched in English and Spanish to promote and facilitate continuous engagement from members of the public. The project website provides up-to-date information on the development process of the plan, as well as a questionnaire that serves as an additional tool the public can use to provide input on the plan. All the information and input gathered is being used to create the core elements of the plan. Next slide, please. The core elements of the plan include community engagement principles that will serve as our code of conduct and guide our engagement approach, community priorities to help inform our goals and ensure that public participation practices respond to community needs, goals to direct our efforts to accomplish desired outcomes, which will be tracked by performance metrics, and strategies to help us achieve the goals. Next slide, please. This slide shows the general framework of the plan, which will be built on the community identified priorities and engagement principles. The plan will include strategies to be implemented over the short, medium, and long term, with a goal of revisiting the plan in 3 years to make any adjustments or updates based on public needs and lessons learned. The plan will also include metrics to measure its effectiveness in enhancing public outreach and participation. In the following slides, I will go over the community engagement principles and proposed goals. Next slide, please. Based on the initial engagement with CBOs and the public, community engagement principles were identified to guide participation and engagement activities for APCD. This slide shows the main themes of the principles that will permeate our engagement approach. The proposed principles are also informed by concepts of popular education, which is teaching methodology that fosters a high degree of community participation and social awareness to affect social change. By applying the proposed principles, both APCD and the community are teachers that learn from one another and are partners in effecting change. Next slide, please. Part of the intent of our initial outreach was to identify community priorities for public participation. These priorities are the foundation for the following list of proposed overarching goals for the plan. Those goals include build relationships and trust with the community, particularly those that have experienced disproportionate air quality impacts, provide the community meaningful tools, resources, and information so that the community is empowered to be an engaged partner in APCD decision-making, connect with community members in places they trust and provide consistent engagement opportunities, engage each community through inclusive, transparent, trauma-informed practices that meaningfully inform decision-making, invest in an organizational culture and structure that supports proactive community engagement, and establish partnerships with community-based organizations, government departments, and agencies to ensure community outreach is coordinated and demonstrates collaborative results. Next slide, please. The information and input provided by the CBOs and the public, as well as by the board in today's meeting, will be incorporated into a draft public participation plan that will then be released for public review and comment this winter. Staff will return with a final plan for board approval in April of this year. Next slide, please. Today's recommendation is for the board to receive this update on the development of the participation plan, provide input on the proposed goals for the plan, and direct staff to return to the board in 3 months with a proposed plan addressing the board's and the public's input. That concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you so much, Paula. I really appreciate it. Before we have any public comments, before I make any comments, I want to ask if there's any public comments on this item.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. We have one request to speak on this item.
Okay.
I will call the individual by the last 4 digits of their phone number. You will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the record. And it is 2464. Please begin by stating your name for the record.
Lupita Montoya,
Thank you. We can hear you.
Equality Advocate. Lupita Montoya, Equality Advocate. The Environmental Health Coalition congratulates the San Diego County Air Pollution Control District for its continued efforts to become more responsive to the public and to increase public outreach and participation. EHC appreciates the opportunity to participate in the listening sessions conducted by Pueblo Planning. EHC community leaders and members appreciated the community-focused and respectful manner in which the sessions were held, and we look forward to continuing to support the development of meaningful overarching goals for public participation plan. While all the proposed key priorities listed in the draft PPP prepared by the MAKE Communications and Pueblo Planning they're all important to EHC. We would like to emphasize a few in the interest of time. With regards to priority 1, EHC asks that the APCD pay special attention to following up with community members and acting quickly to address air quality issues. It is important that these actions be tractable by the general public. For priority 2, EHC underscores the importance of providing information in an accessible and understandable manner, contextualizing information geographically and connected to people's life experiences, particularly as it relates to public health, and developing an online interactive interface to understand cumulative pollution sources at a hyper-local level is important. As EHC commented during the development of Rule 1210, the air toxics policy visualization of pollution sources by census tract allows residents to understand the impact of pollution in their neighborhoods in a clear and logical manner. We envision that this priority will further promote public engagement. For priority 3, we support the recommendation to use accessible language and imagery to avoid the use of jargon or technical language. Scientific communications is increasingly being recognized as critical in our society. APCD should actively seek public feedback on what communication approaches are particularly effective and utilize trusted messengers and organizations to provide information. Finally, for priority 4, we highly recommend that APCD focus on being aware of who is left out of the conversation due to the digital divide in providing opportunities to outreach and engage community members. Thank you for the opportunity to provide additional feedback.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony on this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let me go ahead and open up the floor for discussion. Do we have any questions for staff? Member Shu? Member Shu?
Thank you. I just have some quick comments. I'm glad we're moving forward on this. I'm in this, well, I guess in recent years, I've been really cognizant of measuring outcomes as a part of our evaluation process. So outcomes meaning we do a random sampling, make sure it's we're cognizant of who we're sampling in terms of race, ethnicity, and income, and then really see whether or not we have the outcomes that we're seeking. And to me, that in this particular light, it would be if we randomly sample 100 people or 1,000 people in our region and ask them what they know about APCD, that would be interesting. And my guess is very few would know. We shouldn't be measuring our effectiveness in terms of public participation by how many people show up at these meetings to make comments. We should be looking at it from outcome of the general population. And I hope that's part of our evaluation process, that we will look at the ultimate end of what we're trying to do. When I was growing up in Los Angeles, as a young person, I knew APCD because smog was a major issue, but that organization, that agency, was in the minds of the people in the region I was in, and most of my classmates knew it. Most of the population knew it. I don't know if that's true here in San Diego, and I hope we can move towards that kind of outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Martinez.
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if I may have missed this, but if we could go to the slide that talked about the folks that participated. I remember there were certain organizations that were engaged. Vista Community Clinic comes to mind. How many different community members participated in the process so far? And what were there specific cities targeted? I know it was virtual, so I don't know if we have data as far as like how many community members from the different communities throughout the region participated, but that's information I would like to know.
Member Martinez, unfortunately, I don't have that information. I don't know if the clerk has anyone from the consulting team. I had understood they were going to be participating. They might have the specifics of that information. But I do know that Vista Community Clinic was one of the CBOs that we partnered with.
Yes, I can.
Go ahead.
I apologize. I do have a couple of members from the consulting team if you'd like me to move them into view.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Looks like we have Monique with us. Were you able to hear the question from Member Martinez?
I was. I'm also wondering, is Esmeralda here as well from MIG? And I could certainly.
Yes, she's being promoted as well to panelist.
Okay, great. And I could certainly answer that question from Vista. Well, first of all, our intention was to intentionally engage communities that are most impacted from air quality issues, but also to have a second layer with that in terms of ensuring that there's geographical diversity, because the air quality issues that may happen at the border are different than the air quality issues that are happening in Vista or in North County or in even East County as well. And so with that, Vista in particular engage members both in Vista and Oceanside that they have relationships with. And El Cajon, that meeting particularly was engaging the Arabic speaking population that primarily lives in and around El Cajon area. At Bayside, we primarily engaged actually three populations, a Vietnamese speaking population, Spanish speaking population, an English speaking population as well. And those were mainly elders in that community. For the Environmental Health Coalition, it was a combination of folks from City Heights, National City, and Barrio Logan who were engaged in those conversations. And then Casa Familiar, folks certainly in the San Isidro area, and that was a multi-generational group as well. So we were really looking again at intentionally engaging folks who are disproportionately impacted from air quality issues, but also ensuring that we had as much diversity as possible geographically due to the varying types of issues that occur.
And if I can add to that also, the meetings that were listed in the presentation identified different languages that were focused on based on the input we got from the community partners. And some of those were monolingual, inclusive of the Vietnamese, Arabic, and Spanish meetings. So some were, while they were bilingual, they happened at the same, simultaneous. Others were intentionally conducted in a language that the participants were comfortable in. In addition to the very focused discussions that we had, listening sessions with community members that our community partners brought in to the conversation, we do have a questionnaire that we pushed out so that the broader public could also participate and add to the information that we gleaned from the listening session, as well as the 2 workshops that we had with the community partners that we engaged with.
Thank you. And then how many people have been engaged, and do you have a number for the different communities?
Yes, I do have that number breakdown that I could certainly share. I don't have it right offhand, but I believe the total amount that was engaged was about 108 people. And each session had about 20 to 30 people each. And so this intentional engagement really allowed us to go much deeper in these conversations with those smaller type of focus group as well.
Thank you. And then I'm not sure what if you'll be having more, but I would Escondido is one of the communities that does have issues, and sometimes Vista Community Clinic has started to do some work in Escondido with their Healthy Escondido campaign. Just started recently, a couple months ago, but I would like to see communities in Escondido and San Marcos, which they have the 1578 freeways that run through these communities, engaged as well. So hopefully there'll be more opportunities to continue these sessions in other communities in our region. I was really impressed with the presentation. I really love seeing that it's bilingual. I learned some new words in there, so thank you. But yes, in any way that I can help support spread the word, I'm happy to do so. And I'm a big fan of the popular education model, so great work. And let's continue to engage our communities and also include other communities that haven't been engaged this round. Thank you.
Member Martinez, with that, would you like to make a motion to approve the goals and proposed principles for the public participation plan?
Yes, I would.
All right, is there a second? Vice Chair Sanchez? Oh, okay, thank you, Marcus. Member Bush. Vice Chair Sanchez?
Marcus is fine.
Vice Chair Sanchez?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to add on to Member Martinez's comments. When I saw Vista Community Clinic, I was really happy because Vista Community Clinic has several programs under its guidance, and that includes REACH programs, after school programs with our most impacted kids, along with community-based organizations that are in our barrios. And with respect to the comments by Member Shu, the idea of educating people about, hey, we want to know about the air pollution issues that you're having. We actually care about this, and there's actually a process to address this. I mean, the idea that a kid would know APCD meant something, something very positive, would be great as part of this process. So as we go through this process, I am hoping that it's not just a one-shot deal, that we end up going back to these communities and include, the kids in like the after-school programs, Project REACH, as well as the community-based organizations. Vista Community Clinic is very active in Oceanside, has been for, I want to say, 30 years. So they definitely have a relationship with the community. We do have a community that is, there's more turnover, but the other ones are very solidly there. And so this whole notion of, doing this in a language that everyone understands and words that people understand in general and not, term of arts, that's just sounding really fantastic. So thank you.
Member Bush?
Yeah, I really want to thank MIG and Pueblo Planning for working on this plan. I support it. And, this is exactly the type of community engagement that we want to see. That focus. I really loved what you said, Monique, is that being intentional. And that's just, the new direction. I want to thank our executive director, Paula, and staff as well. I mean, this is exactly the kind of direction we need to go in. I think back to the days when I used to work at Sandag, and actually that's where I met Monique when she was at Environmental Health Coalition, and we were participating in the community-based organization program. And back then, that kind of engagement that we really need to, I think, move past was, staff coming to a community workshop, doing a community workshop, having folks come in, listen to a PowerPoint, and then break off in sessions, and not really having meaningful engagement conversations. just having it to be too generalized and broad, so the public couldn't provide that meaningful input on these technical issues. And there's kind of education and educating that needs to go both ways. It takes time. There's us kind of as staff, as board, as organization that needs to kind of educate the public on the technical issues, but us being educated on what the public's issues are as well. So it really goes both ways. And I think this plan really captures that and moves that forward. So I just really supportive. Want to see us continue to have this meaningful engagement, to be very intentional and focus on all the diversities, all those different pockets of the community that are underrepresented, underserved. So just really want to commend both MIG and Monique at Pueblo, and I just hope we continue moving in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Gomez?
Thank you, Chair. And I also just want to acknowledge staff, Gustavo. I remember early on when I was coming on, I met with him to talk about the process in which we were going to embark. And they really, really happy to see that he took it to heart in terms of the feedback that I shared with him, to really think about a different way in which we are engaging the community to really develop this plan and incorporate popular education approaches, which are a little bit more friendly, specifically because of the nature of the work that we do. So I think that's really key. And I really wanted to extend my gratitude to him and his team, because it did seem like like I said, he took it to heart. Here we are. We have some amazing support, both from Pueblo Planning and MIG, MEG. And it seems like you all have been doing some good work and some great engagement as well. So thank you for that. And please, Paula, extend my gratitude to Gustavo and his team.
I will. And I just want to thank Domingo and the consultant team. They've done a terrific job of bringing this out to communities all over San Diego County. We also met as a management team with the consultants and had a great session with them to talk about all the principles, and a lot of folks at APCD are super excited about this, and we see this as just the very, very first step in redefining our relationship with the residents of San Diego County. So thanks so much.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone. Marcus, did you have another comment? You're good? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, can we call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Member Birkbeck Garcia.
Birkbeck Garcia, aye.
Member Bush.
Bush, yes.
Member Ella Rivera.
Aye.
Member Gomez. Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Member LaCava.
LaCava, yes.
Member Lawson Reamer.
Lawson Reamer, aye.
Member Martinez.
Yes.
Member Medina.
Medina, aye.
Member Shu.
Shu, aye.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Sanchez, aye.
Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes with those board members who are present voting aye.
So I just want to thank both the consulting teams, and I'd love to see the diversity of the consultants that we've hired that really understand community. I think that's so important. And then I also want to emphasize Member Martinez's comments and just state that, one of the beauties of, and it's only been a year that all of us have served in this capacity in this new board, but all of you as community members and obviously elected officials bring so much wealth and knowledge and of our communities on the ground. And so I would like to encourage us as we're moving forward to really be able to connect with staff and also, about any questions regarding have we thought about this group or that group, because I know that the consultants that we've hired are exceptional in the work that they're doing around public outreach and community. But I think some of us who are on the ground who just, could make recommendations all the time. And I'm sure that APCD staff would be very grateful for that as well. So make sure that we're supporting them in their efforts. So again, thank you. And thank you to Domingo and everyone else for all the great work. With that, there are 2 items for consideration this afternoon in closed session. Before we recess into closed session, Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public that wish to provide public testimony on any of the items?
Thank you, Chair Vargas. I have not received any request. However, if there are any members of the public that are currently on the conference line that wish to address the board on this item, please press *9 now to raise your hand, or use the raise hand feature located at the bottom of your Zoom display.
Thank you.
Seeing no hands raised, there is no public testimony on this item.
Thank you. We will now recess into closed session. Any reportable matters will be reported out at the conclusion of closed session. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to legal counsel to announce the closed session items.
Yes, good morning. This is Greg Lusitano, interim legal counsel. We have closed session. Item number 1 is Robertson's Ready Mix versus APCD in a conference with legal counsel. That's existing litigation. Also, item number 2 will be a public employee appointment pursuant to Government Code 54957 for the position of Air Pollution Control Officer.
Okay, and everybody should have received the link to closed session, and we will come back to open session as soon as we're done. See you at closed session. Thank you. Thank you. I think we have quorum. All right, welcome back. We will now, coming back from closed session, I'm going to turn it over to council to please inform the public of any reportable closed session matters, please.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. The board came out of closed session at 11:42 a.m. Regarding item H1, there was no reportable action during closed session. Regarding item H2, upon a motion by member Sanchez, seconded by member Martinez, the governing board voted unanimously with member Elo Rivera absent to appoint Paula Forbes as the Air Pollution Control Officer effective January 19, 2022. Pursuant to the county's compensation ordinance, the salary of the Air Pollution Control Officer is formally approved by the county's Chief Administrative Officer and will be established at $220,000 per year. No action by the governing board was required. That concludes this report.
Thank you, council. And then also please help me in welcoming Paula as our official air pollution control officer. We had a really robust selection process. I want to thank county staff for human resources and county council for all of their support and help through this, but also I want to say thank you to the APCD team for being so resilient during a time of transition, and I'm really looking forward to great work together. So thank you, Paula. And you have the interim report is next. So if you want to say a couple of words while you do your report, that would be fantastic.
Great. Thank you, Chair Vargas, and board members for this incredible opportunity. I'm really honored to lead such a terrific group of public servants that we have at APCD. I'm excited to continue the APCD transition towards becoming an agency that's truly equitable, responsive, and transparent as we pursue our mission for clean air for all. And I look forward to working with you, Chair Vargas, and Vice Chair Sanchez. I'm excited to get to work and honored by the opportunity. So thank you very much. In terms of, I just have a couple of quick updates in the report. First, on incentives, as I mentioned at our meeting in November, the district opened its annual grant solicitation for heavy-duty equipment projects and received 242 applications requesting $57 million in funding throughout the region. And those projects included $3.8 million in electric infrastructure projects from the Port of San Diego and several marine projects, including other electric tugboat projects that will address air quality issues in the portside communities. And so district staff is busy evaluating these applications pursuant to state requirements, and will be evaluating them over the next several months. District staff also continues to work with port staff to refine the community emission reduction plan incentive projects, specifically for electric trucks and zero emission port equipment. The district has set aside $7 million in AB 617 incentives funding for these two programs. And the Community Steering Committee was briefed on these proposals in their September meeting and in their meeting last night. And we anticipate submitting those programs to CARB for approval in February. And currently we expect both of those programs to open later in 2022. We're also going to be holding a kickoff press event for APCD's Portside Air Quality Improvement and Relief Program. The PAIR program is going to purchase residential portable air purifiers and indoor air monitors for residents of the Portside community. And Supervisor Fletcher and Chair Vargas are going to attend the event, which will be held on Thursday, February 10th at 12:30. That's also the day of our board meeting now, so we may be adjusting accordingly, but we're excited to kick off that program and really excited for what that's going to mean for residents of the Portside community. Also, in support of our efforts on the SERP, APCD provided the City of San Diego with anti-idling signs for installation in 9 different locations in the portside communities. APCD staff worked to obtain the signs from the California Air Resources Board, and they should be installed in the next few weeks. The locations for the signs were identified by compliance staff in conjunction with community residents. Finally, just a brief update on the indirect source rule. As you all will recall, AB 423 included an amendment to the Health and Safety Code, which requires that the district consider adopting an indirect source rule to address pollution from mobile sources that is associated with stationary sources such as ports, warehouses, and distribution centers. And staff is currently reviewing other indirect source programs from around the state to learn about potential approaches and strategies that could be considered for a local indirect source program. We will be meeting with various stakeholders from the environmental, industrial, and goods movement sectors over the coming months. We've already put out requests to meet with folks on this, and we also would like to meet with any of the individual board members who are interested in providing input on concepts for staff's consideration. So we plan to bring a more full report back to the board this coming summer with a status update to share what we've learned from the stakeholder meetings and review any next steps. So that concludes my updates. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any board member updates? Member Medina.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to congratulate Paula on her appointment. Very well deserved, and we're excited to work with you in your new role and the rest of the leadership staff. In terms of your report, I just had a question. Is there any update on a SERP for Otay Mesa area, for the border area?
The California Air Resources Board will be considering that recommendation. Staff has recommended that the area be made have a camp and a SERP. And so we expect that, I believe it's their February meeting. I believe it's February 9th.
Great. Thank you.
So that will be on the CARB agenda on February 9th.
Okay, see no board member updates. And we did not have a governance committee meeting during December, but we will be setting one up before the next board meeting. I want to thank everyone. That concludes our business for today. Our next meeting of the APCD Governing Board will be on Thursday, February 10th at 2 p.m. And it will be via Zoom. Again, thank you, Member LaCava, for joining us today. Maybe there's some miraculous reason why you may be able to come back, but we'll figure it out. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. See you soon.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone, and congratulations.
Thank you.